The massive council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Veltar's holographic image flickered into view. His blue skin, normally a calm ocean shade, had turned pale gray with fear. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky of his homeworld like deadly fireworks. "Honored council members," Veltar began, his voice shaking. "This may be our final transmission. The Grim Empire has broken through our last defense line. Their war machines are rolling through our capital city right now." The alien ambassador paused as another explosion shook his location. Smoke drifted across the transmission, making his image waver. Council members from dozens of different worlds watched in horror from their comfortable seats, thousands of light-years away from the destruction. "We tried everything," Veltar continued, his voice growing stronger despite the chaos around him. "We called in every favor we've earned over the past 300 years. The Zephyrian Navy said they couldn't spare ships. The Crystalline Federation offered prayers but no weapons. Even the mighty Titan Consortium told us they wouldn't risk their fleet against the Grim." A younger Kalari appeared behind the ambassador, whispering urgently in his ear. Veltar's expression grew even more grim as he listened. "They've taken the eastern districts," he reported to the council. "Civilian evacuation ships are being shot down as they try to escape. The Grim aren't just conquering us. They're destroying everything we've built over thousands of years." Counselor Thexari, a tall reptilian being from the Vega system, leaned forward in his floating chair. "Ambassador, surely your military can hold out until we arrange some kind of diplomatic solution. The Grim are reasonable beings. They must want something we can negotiate." Veltar's laugh was bitter and hollow. "Counselor, you still don't understand what we're facing. The Grim don't negotiate. They don't want territory or resources or tribute. They want everything. They strip entire worlds down to bare rock, take every living thing as slaves, and move on to the next target." The transmission flickered as another massive explosion rocked the Kalari capital. When the image cleared, fires could be seen burning in the distance behind Veltar. "Look around this chamber," Veltar said, his voice rising with desperation. 47 different species sit here, representing the most advanced civilizations in known space. Combined, our fleets number over 10,000 ships. Yet none of you will face the Grim. Why? Because you're all afraid. The uncomfortable silence stretched for long seconds. Every council member knew he was right. The Grim Empire had been expanding for decades, swallowing up smaller civilizations one by one. Each time, the major powers had found excuses not to get involved. Each time, they told themselves it wasn't their problem. "There is one option left," Veltar said quietly. "One group we haven't asked for help." "Who?" demanded Counselor Zixera from her crystalline throne. "We've contacted every major power in this galaxy." Veltar took a deep breath. "The humans." The reaction was immediate. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several council members recoiled in their seats as if someone had suggested asking help from wild animals. "The Deathworlders?" Thexari's voice rose to a shriek. "Those violent savages from that nightmare planet?" "Veltar, the stress has affected your mind." But Veltar stood firm. "I've studied the humans for months now. Yes, they come from a world that would kill most of us in minutes. Yes, they're more violent than any species we've encountered. But they're also something else we're not." "What's that?" asked Counselor Mordun, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. "They're survivors," Veltar replied. "Everything on their planet tries to kill them. The weather, the animals, the plants, even tiny invisible creatures. Yet they didn't just survive. They conquered their entire world and reached for the stars." "That doesn't mean they can fight the Grim," Thexari protested. "Their technology is primitive. Their ships are crude. They barely understand how hyperspace works." Another explosion, closer this time, shook Veltar's location. "Maybe their technology isn't as advanced as ours. But they understand something we've forgotten. They know how to fight like their lives depend on it. Because for them, it always has. The young Kalari appeared again, speaking more urgently. Veltar nodded grimly and turned back to the council. The Grimm have reached the government district. We have perhaps an hour before they break into this building. He looked directly into the transmission device. I'm going to send a message to Earth. If any of you want to stop me, now is the time. Nobody moved. The chamber remained silent except for the distant sounds of destruction. Very well, Veltar said. He began typing on a device off-screen. I'm sending our star charts, information about the Grimm fleet, and a simple message. We need help. They probably won't even understand it, muttered Counselor Zixera. Veltar smiled sadly as he finished his transmission. Maybe not. But if they do understand it, and if they decide to come, the Grimm are going to face something they've never encountered before. What's that? Thexari asked despite himself. An entire species that treats survival as a personal challenge, Veltar replied. The transmission began to fade as his equipment failed. Sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters. And humans, my friends, are the scariest monsters in the galaxy. The hologram disappeared, leaving the council in stunned silence. Admiral Jake Morrison had been staring at the alien message for 3 straight hours, and it still didn't make complete sense. The translation software kept glitching, turning whole sentences into gibberish before spitting out something that might be close to what the aliens actually meant. Play it again, Torres, Morrison ordered, rubbing his tired eyes. Lieutenant Commander Mike Torres sighed and activated the holographic display for the 15th time. The blue-skinned alien appeared again, his image flickering and distorted by the long journey through space. Behind him, explosions lit up what looked like a burning city. Greetings, creatures of Soul 3, the alien said in broken, mechanical English. We are, dying people of Kalari worlds. Bad Empire comes. Grim Empire takes everything. We need, fighting help. Please come. Please help stop bad ships. The message was clearly desperate, even through the poor translation. The alien kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting someone to burst through the door at any moment. Colonel Beth Williams shook her head. Sir, this could be a trap. We don't know anything about these aliens or this grim empire they're talking about. Morrison nodded slowly. What's our intelligence department saying about this transmission? Torres pulled up another screen filled with data. The signal came from approximately 47 light-years away. It's been bouncing through several relay stations, which is why the translation is so messy. But we've been able to piece together some information from their star charts. And the Kalari seem to be a peaceful species. No military expansion, no aggressive moves toward their neighbors. They've been sending out trade requests and diplomatic messages for decades. Torres paused. This is their first distress call ever. Morrison studied the star map showing the location of Kalari space. It was far from Earth, but not impossibly so. What about this grim empire? That's where it gets interesting, sir, Torres continued. We've been monitoring deep space communications for months now, and we keep hearing whispers about the Grimm. Other alien species seem terrified of them. Williams leaned forward in her chair. What kind of whispers? Reports of entire star systems going dark. Refugee ships fleeing in all directions. Emergency broadcasts that suddenly cut off mid-transmission. Torres brought up a chart showing recent space activity. Look at this pattern, sir. Over the past 2 years, 12 different star systems have stopped all communications. They're all in a straight line leading directly toward Kalari space. Morrison felt a cold chill run down his spine. Whatever the Grim Empire was doing, they were methodical about it. Any idea what happens to the planets they hit? From what we can gather from refugee transmissions, the Grim don't just conquer worlds. They strip them completely clean. Every resource, every building, every living thing gets taken. What's left behind is basically a dead rock floating in space. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed that information. Morrison had fought in 3 different wars during his military career, but he'd never heard of anything quite like this. "Sir," Williams said quietly, "even if we wanted to help, we're talking about a massive undertaking. Our entire space fleet is designed for defending Earth and the inner colonies. We've never fought a war this far from home." Torres pulled up the fleet roster. Current strength is 287 combat vessels of various sizes. Plus about 1,000 civilian ships if you count cargo haulers, mining vessels, and research ships. How does that compare to what we think the Grimm have? According to the alien transmission, the Grimm fleet numbers over 2,000 ships. Their vessels are reportedly 3 times larger than ours, with energy shields that can deflect most weapons we know about. Morrison stared at the numbers on the screen. By any reasonable military calculation, Earth didn't have a chance. The smart move would be to send a polite message expressing sympathy but explaining that humanity couldn't spare any ships for such a distant conflict. But something about the desperation in that alien's voice bothered him. Morrison had grown up hearing stories about World War II, when his great-grandfather fought against what seemed like impossible odds. Back then, people said the Nazis couldn't be stopped either. "Colonel Williams, I want you to start making some calls," Morrison said finally. "What kind of calls, sir?" "Contact every ship captain in the fleet. Active duty and reserve. Tell them we're looking at a potential combat situation that's going to require everything we've got." Williams looked shocked. "Sir, you're talking about mobilizing our entire space capability. That would leave Earth completely defenseless." Morrison nodded grimly. "That's exactly what I'm talking about. Also, contact the civilian fleet commanders. Any ship that can mount a weapon and survive a hyperspace jump." "Admiral," Torres interrupted, "that's not just our military. You're talking about converting our entire civilization's space assets into a war fleet." "Yes, I am." Morrison stood up and walked to the main display, where the image of the desperate Kalari alien was frozen mid-sentence. "Mike, what do you think happens if we ignore this? If we let the Grimm Empire keep expanding without anyone stopping them?" Torres thought for a moment. "Eventually, they'll reach Earth." "Exactly. And when they do, we'll be fighting alone, with no allies and no one to help us." Morrison turned to face his staff. "Right now, we have a chance to make allies and show the galaxy what humans are capable of. More importantly, we have a chance to stop these Grimm bastards before they get any stronger." Williams was still shaking her head. "Sir, the risk is enormous. If we lose our entire fleet, then we'll build another one," Morrison replied firmly. "Beth, humanity didn't get to the stars by playing it safe. We got here by taking risks that other species thought were impossible." He walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. "Besides, there's something else to consider. If these Grimm are as bad as they sound, and if they're systematically destroying entire civilizations, then somebody needs to stop them. And right now, we're the only ones crazy enough to try." Morrison looked around the room at his staff. "So here's what we're going to do. We're going to gather every ship we can get our hands on, load them with the biggest weapons we can fit, and we're going to show this Grimm Empire what happens when they mess with human friends." Captain Lisa Carter had never imagined that her old mining ship would one day be leading humanity's first interstellar war fleet. The Denver's Pride had spent 15 years hauling asteroid ore between Mars and the Belt colonies. Now she was bristling with weapons that the engineers had somehow managed to bolt onto her hull in just 3 weeks. "This is insane," muttered her co-pilot, Danny Rodriguez, as he watched the tactical display. "Lisa, we've got a garbage scow flying next to a nuclear research vessel. Half these ships weren't even designed to leave Earth's orbit." Carter adjusted her headset and checked the communications board. Behind her scout group, the main human fleet was still 12 hours away, but even from this distance, it was an incredible sight. Ships of every size and shape imaginable stretched across space like a massive swarm of metal insects. "Control, this is Carter," she reported back to Admiral Morrison. "I'm getting my first look at the target area. The Grim fleet is definitely here, and it's bigger than we expected." Through her ship's main viewer, Carter could see the Kalari homeworld in the distance. It was a beautiful blue and green planet, much like Earth, but it was surrounded by a ring of black ships that looked like predatory birds circling wounded prey. "How many ships are we looking at, Captain?" Morrison's voice crackled through the comm system. Carter's sensor operator, a young woman named Kelly Park who used to work on weather satellites, was frantically working her controls. "I'm counting at least 3,000 vessels, Captain. Maybe more. They're arranged in perfect formation around the planet." 3,000. Rodriguez whistled low. "We brought about 1,500 ships total. That's not good odds." But Carter was studying the enemy ships more carefully. They were sleek and elegant, with smooth curves and what looked like energy shields shimmering around their hulls. Everything about them screamed advanced technology and military precision. "You know what, Danny?" Carter said thoughtfully. "I don't think numbers are going to matter in this fight." "What do you mean?" Carter gestured toward her tactical display, where she could see the human fleet still approaching. It was the most ridiculous collection of spacecraft anyone had ever assembled for war. There were proper military destroyers, yes, but they were flying alongside converted cargo haulers with missile pods strapped to their sides. Medical ships had been turned into troop transports. Even the university's deep space research vessel had somehow been fitted with experimental plasma weapons. "Look at what we brought," Carter said. "That ship there used to deliver pizza to the moon colonies. Now it's got torpedo tubes welded to its belly. That one next to it. That's a waste management vessel from the Jupiter stations. They've turned it into a mobile weapons platform." Rodriguez shook his head. "That's exactly my point. We're bringing garbage trucks to fight advanced alien warships." But Carter was smiling now. "No, Danny, you're missing it. Look at those Grim ships. They're all identical. Perfect formations, matching technology, everything designed for maximum efficiency." She pulled up a closer scan of the enemy fleet. "They've probably conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics every time. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, strip the planet clean, move on to the next target. And that's bad for us how?" Carter turned to face her co-pilot. "Because they've never fought anyone like us. Look at our fleet again. No two ships are the same. We've got mining lasers turned into weapons, construction equipment modified for combat, even a few racing ships that got volunteered by their owners." Through the comm system, she could hear chatter from other human ships as they approached the battle zone. The conversations were nothing like the formal military communications she'd expected. "Yo, Carter, this is Captain Bobby Kim on the converted freighter Rocky Mountain High. We've got those new kinetic cannons online. Can't wait to see what they do to fancy alien shields, *. This is Captain Maria Santos on the research vessel Einstein's Dream. Our science team thinks they've figured out how to overload energy shields using our particle accelerator. Want to test it out, *. Carter laughed and keyed her microphone. "Copy that, Santos. Save some aliens for the rest of us." Admiral Morrison's voice cut through the chatter. "All ships, this is Morrison. We're entering Kalari space in 6 hours. Remember, these Grim have been conquering civilizations for decades using the same playbook every time." Carter could hear the determination in the Admiral's voice as he continued. "They're expecting to face another civilized military that follows the rules of engagement. Instead, they're about to meet 1,500 human ships, each one modified by crews who grew up fixing impossible problems with whatever tools they had lying around." The communication channel erupted with cheers and war cries from across the human fleet. Carter could hear ship captains from every walk of life, former miners, cargo pilots, research scientists, even a few retired racing drivers who'd volunteered their personal spacecraft for the war effort. This is Captain Steve Johnson on the garbage scow New Jersey's finest came one transmission. We've welded ramming spikes to our front end and loaded our cargo bay with every explosive we could find. These alien bastards are about to learn what a real demolition job looks like, Carter switched to a private channel with Admiral Morrison. Admiral, I think these Grimm are in for the shock of their lives. How so, Captain? Carter watched as a converted ice hauler tested its new weapons systems, sending bright tracer rounds across the darkness of space. They've spent decades fighting civilized species that follow predictable military doctrines. We're bringing them chaos. She paused, watching the incredible variety of ships in the human fleet. Sir, we didn't just bring our military to this fight. We brought our entire civilization. Garbage collectors, pizza delivery guys, college professors, asteroid miners, all flying ships that were never designed for war but somehow got turned into weapons anyway. Morrison's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. You're right, Captain. The Grimm have never faced an enemy that treats their entire society as a weapon. They're about to find out what happens when you threaten something humans care about. As the human fleet continued its approach toward the Kalari homeworld, Carter couldn't help but smile. The Grimm Empire was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. They didn't just fight wars. They fought like their entire species depended on winning. The first shots of the Battle of Kalari Prime were fired by the Grimm Empire at exactly 0600 hours, Seoul Standard Time. Their massive black warships opened up with perfectly coordinated energy beams, expecting the human fleet to either turn and run or be vaporized within the first few minutes. What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for generations to come. Holy crap, they're shooting at us, yelled Captain Danny Mitchell from his converted garbage hauler, the Brooklyn's best. All units, this is Mitchell. The party has officially started. The human response was immediate and completely insane by any civilized standard of warfare. Instead of forming neat battle lines or attempting sophisticated tactical maneuvers, the entire human fleet simply charged straight at the Grimm ships like a pack of rabid wolves. This is Captain Lisa Carter on Denver's Pride, came the transmission over the comm channels. I'm reading energy shield frequencies on these alien ships. Looks like they're designed to stop energy weapons. So what's the plan, Carter? Asked Captain Bobby Kim from his converted freighter. Carter's voice carried a note of savage satisfaction. Bobby, remember what we used to blast through asteroid shields back in the mining days? Oh, you beautiful genius, Kim laughed. Kinetic rounds. These fancy aliens probably never thought about good old-fashioned bullets. Within seconds, the human fleet began unleashing a storm of metal projectiles at velocities that would have been impossible to achieve in an atmosphere. The Grimm ship's energy shields, designed to deflect laser beams and plasma bolts, were completely useless against chunks of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Commander Steve Johnson, piloting what used to be a waste management vessel, watched in delight as his improvised kinetic cannons punched holes straight through a Grimm destroyer's hull. This is Johnson on New Jersey's finest. Their shields don't mean squat against real projectiles. The Grimm fleet commanders were experiencing something they'd never encountered in decades of conquest: confusion. Their perfect formations began to waver as human ships swarmed around them like angry insects, attacking from every direction at once. What kind of species fights like this? Transmitted one Grimm captain to another, his message intercepted by human listening posts. They have no formation, no strategy, no honor. They're primitives, came the reply. Just maintain fire discipline and they'll break soon enough. But the humans weren't breaking. If anything, they were getting more aggressive. When Captain Amy Rodriguez saw her friend's ship get blown apart by a Grimm energy cannon, she didn't retreat or call for backup. Instead, she led her squadron of converted racing ships straight into an asteroid field, chasing 3 Grimm vessels that were trying to escape. Rodriguez to all units, she called out as her ship lightning bolt threaded between massive space rocks at speeds that made her crew sick with fear. These alien cowards think they can run and hide. Let's show them what human pilots can do. The grim ships following her were piloted by beings with excellent reflexes and advanced computer systems. But they'd never flown through an environment that was actively trying to kill them every second. The human pilots had grown up racing through Earth's asteroid belt, where a single mistake meant death. 2 of the grim ships smashed into asteroids within minutes. The third tried to surrender. "This is Admiral Morrison to all human vessels," came the command from the flagship Texas Thunder. "Remember, we're not just here to win this fight. We're here to send a message that will be heard across the entire galaxy." The message was being received loud and clear. The Grim Empire had perfected warfare against civilized species that followed predictable military doctrines. They knew how to handle organized battle fleets with clear command structures and logical tactics. They had no idea how to fight a species that treated war like a bar brawl on a galactic scale. Captain Tommy Garcia, flying a converted pizza delivery ship called Hot and Fast, had somehow managed to get close enough to a grim battleship to use his ship's modified industrial cutter as a weapon. "This is Garcia. I'm literally sawing through their hull with a mining laser. These guys built their ships to look pretty, not to take real damage." The battle was turning into a nightmare for the grim commanders. Every time they destroyed a human ship, 3 more would appear from unexpected directions. The humans weren't following any military doctrine that the Grim recognized. They were just attacking with whatever they had, wherever they saw an opportunity. "This is Commander Rick Barnes on the asteroid Hopper," came another transmission. "I just watched a human medical ship ram a Grim cruiser. The medical ship won." Indeed, Dr. Patricia Lee had converted her hospital ship into an improvised missile by loading it with every explosive device the human fleet could spare, then steering it straight into the side of a Grim vessel that was 3 times larger. The explosion could be seen from the other side of the solar system. "Lee to Morrison," came her voice from an escape pod. "Target destroyed. Requesting pickup and another ship to blow up." Admiral Morrison himself was fighting from the bridge of Texas Thunder, coordinating what could barely be called a battle plan. "All units, continue random attack patterns. Don't let them predict what we're going to do next." "Sir," called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh, "that's not really a strategy." Morrison grinned as he watched a converted garbage scow tear the engine section off a Grim destroyer. "Walsh, strategy is for people who fight fair. We're Deathworlders. We fight to win." The Grim fleet was learning this lesson the hard way. Their commanders had expected to face another civilized military that would retreat after taking moderate casualties. Instead, every human ship they destroyed seemed to make the remaining humans fight even harder. "This is Captain Mike Torres on Rocky Mountain Thunder," came a transmission from the thick of the fighting. "I just heard one of their commanders asking for permission to retreat." "Permission to retreat. Can you believe these guys?" "Torres, this is Morrison. Do not let them retreat. Follow them back to whatever base they came from and blow that up too." "Copy that, Admiral. These aliens started this fight. We're going to finish it." The Battle of Kalari Prime lasted 18 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 30 minutes. The moment the Grim Empire realized they were fighting a species that didn't follow any civilized rules of warfare, their perfect military machine began to fall apart. By the end, the survivors would carry tales back to their empire about the terrifying humans who turned their entire civilization into a weapon and fought like every battle was their last. The surrender message came through on every communication frequency at once, broadcast in dozens of languages to make sure there was no misunderstanding. Admiral Morrison listened to the translation with grim satisfaction as he stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been the most feared fleet in this part of the galaxy. "This is Fleet Commander Zarthek of the Grim Empire," the alien voice said through the universal translator. We formally request cessation of hostilities. Our forces are withdrawing from Kalari space immediately." Captain Kate Thompson's voice crackled through the comm from her position near the Kalari homeworld. "Admiral, I'm getting readings from the planet's surface. Looks like the entire population is celebrating. They're lighting up every city on the night side. Morrison nodded but kept his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Grim fleet was indeed retreating, their remaining ships limping away toward the edge of the solar system. Out of the 3,000 vessels they'd brought to conquer the Kalari, fewer than 800 were still spaceworthy. "Sir," said Colonel Beth Williams from her station, "the mission is complete. The Kalari are safe. Shouldn't we let them go?" Morrison's expression didn't change. "Beth, how many worlds did these Grim destroy before they got here?" Williams checked her intelligence reports. "According to our information, at least 12 star systems have gone completely dark over the past 2 years. And how many millions of people died in those attacks?" "Unknown, sir, but probably billions." Morrison turned to face his communications officer. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, open a channel to all human vessels." "Channel open, sir." "All units, this is Morrison," the Admiral announced. "Form pursuit formation. We're following these Grim bastards back to wherever they came from." The bridge fell silent. Colonel Williams stared at Morrison in shock. "Sir, they're surrendering. They're running away." "No, Beth, they're retreating to regroup and attack someone else next month," Morrison replied coldly. "I want every forward base they have in this sector reduced to scrap metal. Every supply depot, every staging area, every piece of infrastructure that could be used to attack innocent people." Lieutenant Tommy Garcia, the young officer monitoring alien communications, looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're intercepting Grim transmissions. They're calling for reinforcements from their home territory." "Perfect," Morrison said with a smile that would have frightened a shark. "That means we'll know where to find them." Over the next 7 days, the human fleet pursued the fleeing Grim ships across 3 different star systems. What they found was a network of military bases, supply stations, and conquered worlds that stretched across dozens of light years. The humans methodically destroyed every single one. Captain Lisa Carter, still commanding her converted mining ship Denver's Pride, led the assault on a massive Grim supply depot built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. "This is Carter to all units. I'm looking at enough weapons and equipment to supply 10 invasion fleets. Let's make sure nobody ever uses this stuff again." The depot was reduced to expanding debris within an hour. Commander Steve Johnson, whose garbage scow had somehow survived the entire campaign, found himself attacking what appeared to be a Grim ship construction facility orbiting a dead planet. Johnson to Morrison. "Sir, this place has been building ships for decades. There are hull plates here stamped with serial numbers from attacks that happened 50 years ago." "Blow it up," Morrison ordered without hesitation. The construction facility joined the supply depot as scattered wreckage. By the end of the week, the Grim Empire's forward infrastructure had been completely eliminated. Their ability to project power into this region of space was gone, probably for decades. But the real message was being received by civilizations across the galaxy who monitored deep space communications. Ambassador Veltar stood in his rebuilt office on the Kalari homeworld, watching human patrol ships pass by his window. His people were safe, their cities were being rebuilt, and the nightmare of the Grim invasion was over. So why did he feel nervous? "Ambassador," said his aide, a young Kalari named Jexori, "the human fleet is requesting permission to establish a permanent monitoring station in our outer system." Veltar nodded slowly. "Tell them yes, of course. They saved our world." But as he watched those human ships, he couldn't shake the feeling that his people had simply traded one set of predators for another. The humans had shown incredible kindness to the Kalari people, helping with reconstruction and providing medical aid. But they'd also shown what they did to their enemies. The Grim Empire no longer existed as a meaningful military force in this sector. The humans had made sure of that. 3 months after the Battle of Kalari Prime, Ambassador Veltar found himself back in the Galactic Council chambers. But this time, he wasn't alone. A human representative sat beside him, wearing the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. The Council recognizes Ambassador Janet Walsh of the Terran Federation, announced the council president. Walsh stood up calmly. Thank you, President Mordun. Earth is honored to accept membership in the Galactic Council. The vote was unanimous. Not because the council members particularly liked humans, but because they were absolutely terrified of what would happen if they said no. Councillor Thexari, who had once dismissed humans as primitive barbarians, now spoke carefully whenever Earth was mentioned. The human military proved quite effective against the grim threat. Yes, agreed Councillor Zixera, her crystalline form shifting nervously. Very effective indeed. What none of them said out loud was what everyone in the chamber was thinking: the humans hadn't just defeated the Grim Empire. They'd hunted them down systematically and destroyed every trace of their military infrastructure. They'd turned an entire region of space into a graveyard as a warning to anyone else who might have similar ideas. Admiral Morrison received word of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council while his fleet was finally returning to Earth. He stood on the bridge of Texas Thunder, looking at the blue marble of humanity's homeworld growing larger in the main viewer. "Congratulations, Admiral," said Colonel Williams. "We're officially part of the galactic community." Morrison nodded. "Beth, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them to begin expanding the shipyards. I have a feeling we're going to need a much larger fleet very soon." "Why's that, sir?" Morrison smiled as he watched Earth grow larger ahead of them. "Because word is going to spread about what we did to the Grim. Some species are going to want to be our friends. Others are going to want to test us." He turned to face his staff. "Either way, the galaxy now knows that humans don't just fight to win battles. We fight to make sure the war never happens again." As the human fleet entered Earth orbit, carrying news of their first galactic victory, communications networks across the galaxy buzzed with a new understanding. The balance of power had shifted permanently. The age of human expansion had begun, and no one was quite sure what that meant for the rest of the universe.